Analysis of the physical infrastructure. Man-made resources consist of physical and organizational components. For the purpose of presenting the vertical analysis, the term infrastructure is used here for the physical components that are necessary for providing economic goods and services for farming systems. These components can be roughly divided into the categories of transport, energy supply, water supply, services and communication infrastructure. The analysis of all elements of the infrastructure requires the recording of at least 4 criteria: quality, quantity, temporal availability, and usage costs. The first step in examining transportation infrastructure is to map the locally available transportation routes. These include roads, railways, airports, and waterways. This mapping also considers the suitability and temporal availability of the transportation routes. This includes, for example, the suitability of roads and bridges for heavy goods vehicles and their accessibility during rainy periods. The same applies to railways and airports, which are particularly important for export-oriented farming systems. Waterways are the most traditional solution for the transport of bulk goods. Transport routes, along with available means of transport, determine economic distances. Economic distance to markets and services plays an important role in the profitability of optional activities of farming systems. Possible sources of energy supply range from publicly accessible forest areas for firewood collection to the availability of petrol stations, electricity grids, and gas networks. There, too, potential quantities and availability over time are relevant in addition to the sources of supply. The type, quantity, and security of supply of the energy sources determine the possible use in farming systems. The economic potential for farming systems results from the combination of these aspects with the costs per unit of energy. Water infrastructure includes access to water supply and wastewater disposal facilities. Water quality determines the potential uses in different areas of a farming system. The same applies to potentially available quantities and their temporal availability. Inadequate or unsustainable wastewater management solutions can lead to environmental pollution. The consequences can affect both the health and quality of life in rural households and impact the production and marketing of agricultural products. Locally available services include social and material services. Social services include, for example, the availability of health care and education facilities. The analysis requires both the recording of existing constructions and the quality of personnel and materials. Material services include supply options with products, loans, and professional support as well as offers for further processing of agricultural products. Local supply with products decides on access to and costs of agricultural production means, household items, and medication. The availability of repair workshops and craft businesses decides on potentials for mechanization in agriculture and work settings in the household. Processing options for agricultural products can be crucial for the profitability of cultivation alternatives. This is for example true for rice, which must be at least husked before consumption. Especially in developing countries, the specific suitability of local processing options must be considered during the vertical analysis. Locally unadapted procedures question their sustainability and limit the agricultural alternatives of local farming systems. Communication infrastructure is of increasing importance for the economic and social success of farming systems. In addition to the classic information that is important for agriculture, such as weather forecasts, current market prices, and agricultural advice, digital applications for agricultural production are increasingly available. The same applies to household, social engagements, and off-farm activities. Applications in these areas range from social networks to home office. The analysis of the possible use of these potentials depends on the availability and quality of connections to information channels such as mobile networks and the Internet.